very much for coming. I think the greatest gift that an author can receive is to have a moment where they read their work in front of a live audience. Writing is one of the few arts in which the artist doesn't necessarily have the privilege of the response of the consumer of the art. So if you're in theater, if you're in music, if you have a gallery show, you have at least a moment where you can have some feel of the response to the work that you're presenting to the public. As a reader, we tend to read in private, we tend to read in our homes, and so we get the full force of the body of the work, whether it be a work of poetry or prose, in a private sense. So this is a magical moment where you actually have the opportunity to hear work in progress, and the beauty of the 3030 project is that if you're reading, along with the people here who have been writing or will be writing the 3030 project, you're reading raw work that has not been edited, work that has come out freshly. Many people publish poems after a year or more, or years of revision, of thought, of editing. Lisa Raspar at the University of Virginia said in a reading recently when she was asked by her audience, how do you know when a poem is ready to be sent off? Well, how do you know when it's finished, when it's really finished? And she said, well, I'm reading to you from work that I published 20 years ago, and as I've been reading this poem, I've been in my head editing it. When is it ever done? Many times you release a work and you may think it's done, you may just take a chance and think it's saying what it's saying now, here it goes. So what you're offering here in being part of this audience is you're being witness to art, and you're being witness to art that was shared in public as it was being produced. And that's not something that was done in writing for many, many years. These 3030 projects, which started slowly and are a little more popular, are opportunities for poets from around the nation and in our project from around the world to collaborate together. They can talk with one another, they can share prompts, they can share their concerns, they can share, oh my gosh, it's 11:45 and I haven't got my poem quite finished this night. And they can share and work on a project together during the month. Now, one of the things that we find is that there is a great magic in the month of poetry where somewhere around the middle, many of the poems have some resonance with one another, even if the authors aren't talking to one another. And I would like you tonight, as you're listening to the poems, and the poets who are writing and are reading tonight didn't necessarily write in the same month, but there is usually a resonance in the work that is read together or written together, so listen for it. One thing I found in these 3030 readings is that it's a little more special if each author introduces themselves. What they bring to the introduction is a little more personal and a little more powerful than what I might read that they've written. So I'd like to start with Robert Okaji, whom I'd also like to thank for putting this reading together. And with that, every poet will read between 3 and 4 poems. They'll introduce themselves, and we'll wait until after the reading is done and allow you to ask questions about what the experience was like. We find that in the 3030 project, we take poetry reading outside of the realm of poets buying and reading each other's books, outside of the literary world, into the world of people who may never have been exposed to poems before. So you'll hear a great variety of works from a great variety of poets. And Robert, thank you for beginning.
Well, I'm Robert Okaji. I live in Austin, and I took on the 3030 challenge last August. I had 2 concerns about participating in the challenge. One, would I be able to produce 30 poems in 30 days, because I'm rather a slow writer. And the second was, what am I going to write about? But then I remembered William Stafford's advice about what to do when the writing wasn't going as well as you wanted to. And I felt that, okay, it'll be possible, I can do this. And for subject matter, I thought that, well, maybe via my blog, I might be able to convince a handful of people to sponsor a poem and give me a title to write to. And so I was very fortunate. 28 people donated money to Tupelo Press for the privilege of assigning a title to me that I would have to write to. Now, these range in simplicity from one-word titles to one that was 70 words in length. And in sheer awfulness from Calvin Coolidge, Live or Memorex, to Your Armpits Smell Like Heaven. And William Stafford's advice, lower your standards. And I hope I didn't have to do that too much, but I know in a few cases, oh well, I'll let you all decide about that. Well, this first poem has a distinction of being the longest title. It was originally 70 words in length, but I've reduced it to 45 so as to keep you awake for this reading. It has two epigraphs, one by Mei Yao Chen, a Song Dynasty poet, whose cat figures in the poem, and one by Jim Morrison from The Doors. Forced by this title to write a poem in third person about himself, the poet considers the phenomena of standing waves, dreams involving long-lost cats, even if he has not had such a dream himself, and the amazing durability of various forms of weakness. Five white cat always made sure no rats gnawed my books. Mei Yao Chen. His brain is squirming like a toad. Jim Morrison. Standing by the water, the poet wonders if, as in this dream, his dead dog and five white might seize the separate ends of a rope and blend their tugs, matching highs and lows, growls and purrs, with near stillness, dawn to dusk and back again, always equal, sharing through death their love of work and honor. He throws a small branch and asks the dog's ghost to fetch it, but it remains at his side, as if reluctant to leave. How to release what you no longer hold? Shadows disappear in direct light, but always return at its departure. The raindrop remains intact through its long plummet. Words, though unspoken, hang like lofted kites awaiting a new wind, a separate rhythm beyond compassion. He cannot hear it, but joins his dog in singing. The cat yowls along. Well, this second poem is one of the one-word title poems. I've found that one-word titles offer great latitude, which happens to be the title of this poem. Latitude. Sometimes it's enough to know that a chicken preceded this egg, that some crossed the Atlantic and others guess the road. Perhaps I am too enamored of this fondness for imprecision, never certain where evening ends in your latitude, where morning begins in mine. But I've come to appreciate, late in life, the finer points of egg cookery, the beauty of basting with olive oil, 3 ways of poaching, and the tender art of scrambling. This is, of course, metaphor and not. The truth is seldom so simply derived. You hold the egg. I offer salt. Your pan, my butter. We both bring the heat. Now, this poem is one that I didn't write during the challenge. It's from a series that I thought I'd work on, but things seldom go as planned. So I had bought a book on corvids, crows, jays, ravens, because they're really interesting birds, and I thought, I'd probably write something about them. But as it turned out, the poems morphed into a series from the point of view of a scarecrow. This is Scarecrow Listens. These silences I hear, are they not music? Interspersed with sunlight and air flowing through fragrant grasses, insects ticking in the leaves or burrowing towards moist darkness, and my friends cawing from their perches. If I arrange their presence in sequence, perhaps around the day's bones, will you know my spirit? And when I interweave these tunes, independent and unrelated, shaping them into one separate melody, Will you recognize its heart and shiver to the beat? Ornette Coleman, free displaying, celebrating the territories of the immeasurable, the unnamed. The real is, no matter what you call it. Take this leaf and place it atop 3 others. What have you? And what am I if not a gathering of unwanted scraps, melded to serve a thought-free purpose, another's need, fleshless, boneless, breathless, bloodless, I know only that I am. Having no ears, still I listen. And this is my last poem, which has the dubious distinction of being in the running for the worst title in the history of the 3030 Project. When I received it, my first thought was, what the hell am I going to do? And my second thought immediately after was love sonnet. So I wrote this in the Petrarchan sonnet form. Your armpits smell like heaven, but your breath could melt a glacier at 3 miles, she says. And then we might consider the dirt under your nails, the way you slur your sibilants, and how you seldom see the cracked eggs in a carton, a down tree branch in front of you, the ripened blister of paint in the bedroom, or your sister lying drunk on the floor in her own pee. Back to your armpits. Do you realize we could bottle that aroma and make a fortune? I inhale it and forgive your many faults. The odor provokes sighs and tingles, blushes I could never fake. Ain't love grand? Elevate those arms. Let's live. Thank you.